The billionaire had everything most people dreamed of. He had wealth, power, and influence, but he also had a life carefully built from nothing. People admired him for his confidence and charm, the way he carried himself in a room, commanding attention without ever demanding it. Despite his busy life, he had a soft side that only a few people truly knew. He cared deeply for his family, especially his mother, who had been his guiding light through the hardest times of his youth. His fiancée seemed like a perfect match on the surface. She was elegant, poised, and belonged to the circles he often mingled with. She knew how to impress the right people, say the right words, and dress perfectly for every occasion. When he first met her, he was drawn to her confidence and grace. To everyone around them, they seemed like a power couple, admired and envied. But beneath the sparkling exterior, there were tiny cracks that only a few could notice. His mother was the kind of woman who had a gentle heart and a sharp mind. She had always been careful about people who entered her son's life. Over the years, she had seen men and women who seemed perfect at first but revealed their true colors slowly. She loved her son fiercely and wanted to make sure no one would take advantage of him, no matter how charming they seemed. She had been careful not to interfere too much in his love life, knowing that he needed to make his own choices, but she had her instincts, and they were rarely wrong. The household was also home to a black maid, someone who had been with the family for many years. She was more than just an employee. She was a part of the family. She had seen the billionaire grow from a young man struggling to succeed to the powerful figure he had become. She knew every corner of the house, every routine, every small detail that made the family tick. Most importantly, she was observant and wise. She could read people in ways that others often missed. Her loyalty to the family was unquestionable, and she carried a quiet strength that others sometimes underestimated. At first, the billionaire had been so enamored by his fiancée that he overlooked small things. A cold glance here, a dismissive comment there. His mother noticed them immediately but tried not to make him feel uncomfortable. She would smile politely, hide her unease, and wait, hoping he would notice for himself. But he was swept up in the excitement, in the image of a perfect life with a perfect partner. The engagement was planned with grandeur. The billionaire wanted to show his fiancée how much he loved her, to celebrate with friends and family. Invitations were sent to the elite. The press was invited, and the house was decorated with flowers, lights, and elegant furniture. Everything was perfect, or so it seemed. During the party, people noticed small moments of tension that the billionaire didn't. His fiancée made comments that were slightly dismissive of his mother, as if testing the boundaries of respect. Most guests didn't notice, but the mother's expression changed slightly, and the maid's eyes narrowed, silently observing every detail. The billionaire, busy entertaining guests and receiving compliments, hardly paid attention. He smiled, laughed, and danced with his fiancée, completely unaware of the subtle hostility. As the night went on, the tension grew more noticeable. His fiancée's words became sharper, more pointed. She criticized the food lightly, made a small remark about the mother's choice of dress, and complimented herself in ways that made the mother uncomfortable. Guests noticed the awkward moments but didn't say anything. The maid quietly moved around the room, making sure the mother was comfortable and discreetly attending to any needs, while keeping an eye on the fiancé. After the party, in the privacy of their home, the atmosphere shifted. The mother tried to express her feelings, but her words were careful, gentle, and respectful. She hinted at her discomfort, hoping her son would understand without conflict. The billionaire listened but dismissed it lightly, not wanting to see problems where he saw none. He trusted his judgment and his feelings for his fiancée. He believed he knew her well and couldn't imagine her acting against his mother. Meanwhile, the maid had observed everything. She saw the fiancée's eyes, the way she smirked when she thought no one was watching, and the subtle signs of manipulation. She could sense the tension, the unspoken plans, and the potential danger to the mother's emotional well-being. Though quiet and respectful, she was ready to act if things escalated. She had a keen sense of justice and a protective instinct that had guided her through years of serving the family. In the following days, small incidents continued. The fiancé made comments that undermined the mother subtly, tried to influence decisions in the house, and occasionally tested the boundaries of respect. The billionaire noticed less than he should have, caught up in his work and the excitement of wedding planning. The mother maintained her dignity but felt increasingly uncomfortable. She relied on the maid for support, and the maid was always there, ready to step in if necessary. Despite these growing tensions, the billionaire remained convinced that everything was under control. He believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially someone he loved. He trusted his fiancée, and he trusted his mother's understanding nature. However, he didn't realize that ignoring small cracks could eventually lead to something much larger. The maid, who had seen similar patterns before, silently prepared herself. She understood that sometimes the smallest actions could prevent the biggest disasters. Her loyalty, wisdom, and courage were quietly waiting to be called into action. The household continued its daily rhythm, with an underlying tension that only the observant could sense. The billionaire went about his work. His fiancée pursued social engagements. The mother managed the home and family affairs, and the maid watched and waited. It was a delicate balance, and everyone had a role to play, whether they realized it or not. The stage was set for events that would soon unfold, testing loyalty, revealing true character, and challenging the strength of family bonds. As days turned into weeks, the fiancée's behavior became more evident to those who paid attention. Small acts of disrespect grew bolder. Her charm remained for outsiders, but inside the house her true nature was slowly showing. The mother remained patient. The billionaire remained blissfully unaware, and the maid stayed vigilant, ready to act when the time came. Every smile, every gesture, and every word mattered now. The calm before the storm was delicate, yet charged with unseen tension. In this perfect-looking world, cracks had begun to show. The billionaire's ideal life was facing its first real test. It would require him to see beyond appearances, recognize hidden truths, and value the people who truly cared for him. The mother's patience and wisdom and the maid's quiet courage would become crucial. The story of loyalty, love, and courage was just beginning. And the first part had laid the foundation for events that would change everyone's lives forever. After the engagement party, life seemed to return to normal on the surface, but beneath the calm, small tensions continued to simmer. The billionaire was busy with his business ventures, traveling between meetings, contracts, and high-profile events. His fiancée accompanied him on many occasions, always looking perfect, always seeming charming to everyone around. Yet inside the house, the atmosphere was different, quieter, filled with subtle unease. The mother tried to carry on with her daily life, hiding her discomfort behind polite smiles and measured words. She had always believed in patience and observation, and she knew that confrontation without understanding could create more harm than good. Still, she could not ignore the little jabs, the thinly veiled criticisms, or the subtle undermining of her authority in her own home. Every word her fiancé spoke carried a weight, whether spoken out loud or implied through tone or gesture. The maid watched closely. She had been with the family for years and had developed an almost instinctive understanding of their dynamics. She could sense the tension even before it became visible. She noticed how the fiancé's eyes lingered too long on expensive items, how she made comments about the mother's decisions, and how she always seemed to position herself in a way that subtly asserted dominance. The maid knew that people like this could cause real harm if left unchecked, and she quietly vowed to protect the mother, even if it meant acting in ways that surprised everyone. One afternoon, the mother was preparing tea in the kitchen, a routine she enjoyed to unwind from the world outside. Her fiancé entered the room, smiling as if she belonged there completely. At first her words seemed friendly, but as they lingered, subtle barbs emerged. She questioned the mother's choices, commented on the tea being too ordinary, and implied that her own tastes were superior. The mother remained composed, pouring the tea carefully and answering politely, but the tension was palpable. The billionaire arrived unexpectedly, returning from a meeting earlier than planned. He noticed the strained atmosphere immediately, but did not understand its source. His fiancée smiled at him, and he smiled back, thinking everything was fine. He noticed the mother's polite nod and assumed everything was normal. Only the maid, standing quietly behind the counter, recognized the tension for what it truly was. Over the next few days, the incidents became more noticeable. At a family lunch, the fiancé made a casual remark about the mother's cooking being too traditional, suggesting that modern tastes were better. She smiled at the billionaire, trying to make it seem like a joke, but the underlying message was clear. The mother felt hurt but stayed calm, knowing that reacting openly would create conflict. The maid quietly adjusted the serving plates, offering small comforting gestures that only the mother noticed. She whispered a few words, gentle and reassuring, letting the mother know she was not alone. The billionaire, though observant in business, often overlooked emotional subtleties. He wanted to believe in people, especially those he loved. He trusted his fiancée and her polished charm. To him, the mother's slight unease seemed exaggerated, a product of overthinking. He continued planning the wedding with enthusiasm, arranging venues, guest lists, and the perfect celebration, unaware of the growing tension beneath the surface. One evening, the mother and the maid were cleaning up after dinner when the fiancé made an unexpected visit. She entered the kitchen ostensibly to help, but her tone carried an air of superiority. She offered critiques on the way the dishes were arranged and commented on the mother's choice of ingredients. The mother remained silent, listening patiently. The maid, standing near the doorway, observed every gesture, every word, and every nuance. She understood the subtle battle for control happening in the household and knew it was only a matter of time before it escalated. The maid had a way of reading situations that few others could. She could sense underlying motives, detect hidden emotions, and foresee potential conflicts. She had learned to act discreetly, always ensuring the safety and well-being of the family without drawing attention to herself. Her loyalty to the mother and the household was unwavering, and she felt a quiet determination to intervene if the fiancé's behavior became more aggressive. In the following days, the billionaire began noticing small inconsistencies. His fiancée would occasionally act cold or dismissive toward his mother, but when he was around, she smiled and behaved as if everything was perfect. He found himself puzzled at times, sensing tension he couldn't fully understand. He tried to address it lightly, hoping to maintain peace, but his attempts were often brushed aside or misunderstood. The fiancé's behavior became increasingly manipulative. She started to insert herself into decisions, offering opinions on matters that had always been the mother's domain. She suggested changes to household arrangements, questioned family traditions, and subtly undermined the mother's role. The mother, though hurt, continued to respond with dignity and patience. She knew that any overt reaction could escalate the situation, and she relied on the maid's presence for support. One day, the fiancé invited a few friends over without informing the mother. They arrived unexpectedly, laughing and commenting on the house, the furniture, and the family's lifestyle. The mother remained composed, greeting them politely while the fiancé subtly suggested changes in the household that reflected her own tastes rather than respecting the existing environment. The maid moved quietly, serving refreshments, ensuring that the guests were comfortable while keeping a protective watch over the mother. The billionaire arrived home in the evening, unaware of the subtle tension during the visit. He noticed the laughter and the smiles, assuming that everything was harmonious. He exchanged pleasantries with his fiancée and her friends, completely missing the underlying friction. The mother maintained her composure, hiding any signs of discomfort, while the maid ensured that the environment remained orderly and respectful. The maid had grown increasingly concerned. She knew that the fiancé's behavior was not harmless and that if left unchecked, it could escalate into something more serious. She had seen similar patterns before and understood the potential consequences. Her loyalty and courage gave her the resolve to act when the time was right, and she began planning how to address the situation carefully, without causing unnecessary conflict. As the days passed, small incidents continued to pile up. The fiancé's subtle criticisms, her attempts to influence decisions, and her occasional dismissive behavior created an undercurrent of tension in the household. The mother remained patient, relying on her strength and experience to navigate the delicate situation. The billionaire continued to trust his fiancée, unaware of the growing problem, and the maid stayed vigilant, quietly observing and preparing for any necessary action. One afternoon, the fiancée made a particularly sharp remark during a family discussion. She criticized a choice the mother had made for the household, suggesting that her own ideas were better and more modern. The billionaire, caught between his love for his fiancée and his respect for his mother, felt conflicted. He wanted to maintain peace but didn't yet fully understand the depth of the tension. The mother responded calmly, her words measured, while the maid remained close, ready to intervene if needed. The maid's presence was a source of comfort for the mother. She offered subtle support, gentle words, and small gestures that reassured the mother she was not alone. Her keen awareness and quiet strength created a protective barrier around the family, even as the fiancé's behavior tested their patience. The maid understood that sometimes the smallest actions could prevent the biggest problems. As the engagement drew closer, the tension in the household grew. The fiancé's behavior became more pronounced, her subtle manipulations more evident. The billionaire remained partly unaware, trusting his judgment and the image of the perfect partner he had chosen. The mother continued to respond with dignity and patience, leaning on the maid's support. The maid, ever observant, knew that the situation could escalate at any moment, and she prepared herself for the role she might need to play. In this delicate balance, every word, every gesture, and every decision mattered. The fiancé's charm worked in public, but inside the house, her true nature was slowly revealing itself. The mother's patience and wisdom, combined with the maid's loyalty and courage, were quietly shaping the response to the challenges ahead. The family faced a test of character, loyalty, and courage that would soon bring hidden truths to light. Part 2 of this story revealed the growing tension and the subtle battle taking place within the household. It showed the contrasting perspectives of the billionaire, his mother, the fiancée, and the maid, each navigating the situation in their own way. The stage was set for events that would challenge relationships, reveal true character, and test the strength of loyalty and love. The story moved closer to a turning point, where the quiet observations and protective instincts of the maid would play a decisive role. The tension in the household had been growing for weeks, barely noticeable to anyone outside, but impossible to ignore for those living inside. The billionaire remained confident that everything was under control. He believed his fiancée's charm and the mother's grace would keep the balance. Yet he underestimated the subtle danger hiding beneath polite smiles and carefully chosen words. One afternoon, a seemingly simple disagreement turned into a moment that would change everything. The mother was organizing the family's weekly plans in the living room. She was methodical, careful, and thorough as always. The fiancé entered, carrying a sense of entitlement and self-assurance that made the air feel heavier. At first, her words seemed harmless, offering suggestions for activities and improvements. But as the conversation continued, her tone shifted and her suggestions became subtle criticisms of the mother's decisions. "You really think that's the best way to do it?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. Her smile seemed innocent, but the underlying condescension was clear. The mother paused, choosing her words carefully. "I have been managing things this way for many years," she said calmly. "It has worked well for us so far." The fiancé's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of irritation. "Well, maybe it's time for some new ideas," she said, her voice soft but pointed. "We have to keep up with the times, don't you think?" The mother stayed calm, but the room felt tense. The billionaire walked in at that moment, sensing the quiet unease. He looked from his fiancée to his mother, unsure what to say. He tried to lighten the mood with a joke, hoping to dissolve the tension, but the fiancée's eyes were sharp, and her smile barely concealed her irritation. The maid, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, noticed every movement, every glance, and every subtle shift in tone. She knew the situation could escalate quickly. Her eyes met the mother's briefly, and a silent understanding passed between them. The maid stayed close, ready to step in if the situation turned hostile. Minutes later, the fiancée made a move that crossed a line. She lightly pushed aside a folder the mother had been organizing, her gesture casual but disrespectful. "Let me do it," she said, her voice gentle but commanding. The mother's hand paused, a flicker of shock and hurt crossing her face. She did not respond immediately, choosing to remain composed, but the tension in the room had escalated. The billionaire froze, witnessing the gesture. A mix of anger and disbelief flashed across his face. He had never imagined seeing his fiancée treat his mother this way. His voice wavered slightly as he said, "That's enough. You don't push her like that." The fiancée's expression shifted from annoyance to defensiveness. "I was only trying to help," she said, her tone insistent. "I didn't mean anything by it." The mother, maintaining her composure, looked at her son with quiet strength. "I can manage, thank you," she said softly. "I don't need help in this way." The maid stepped forward, her presence firm and protective. She positioned herself subtly between the fiancé and the mother, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Perhaps this is not the right way to offer help," she said calmly. Her voice carried authority, one that made even the fiancé pause. The maid had never spoken in such a manner before, but the situation demanded action. She knew the mother's dignity had to be protected. The fiancé's eyes narrowed, surprised by the maid's intervention. She had not expected the household help to challenge her, but the maid's calm confidence left little room for argument. The billionaire, meanwhile, felt a surge of realization. The fiancé's behavior was not casual or innocent. He could see, perhaps for the first time, the disrespect that had been hidden beneath charm and polite words. The fiancé's posture stiffened. "You're overreacting," she said, attempting to regain control of the situation. "I was only offering my opinion." The maid did not flinch. She met the fiancé's gaze steadily. "There is a difference between offering an opinion and crossing a line," she said firmly. "It is important to respect the people who have built this family, not undermine them." The billionaire felt his anger rise. He took a step closer to his mother and the maid, instinctively protective. "That's enough," he said more forcefully this time. "This is my home, and I will not allow anyone to treat my mother this way." The fiancé's composure cracked for the first time in front of him. She tried to regain control with a smile, but it did not reach her eyes. The billionaire's mother, though shaken by the incident, remained composed. Her pride and dignity were intact, thanks in part to the silent support of the maid who had acted decisively when it mattered most. The tension lingered, even after the fiancé left the room. The billionaire paced, struggling to reconcile his love for his fiancée with the reality of her behavior. He could not deny the truth he had just witnessed. The maid remained close to his mother, offering gentle reassurances and helping her regain a sense of calm. Her actions had been unthinkable in the eyes of some, but in that moment they were necessary and courageous. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the house was strained. The billionaire could not stop thinking about the incident. He began to notice other small behaviors he had previously ignored. The way the fiancé subtly criticized decisions, manipulated situations, or attempted to assert control over areas traditionally managed by his mother. Each observation added weight to the realization that the person he trusted might not be who he thought she was. The mother, while still composed, remained cautious. She appreciated the support of the maid, who had shown bravery and loyalty when it mattered most. The maid continued to observe, ensuring that any future incidents could be managed safely and calmly. She understood that patience and vigilance were key, and she remained a steady presence for the family. The billionaire eventually confronted his fiancée privately, hoping to address the incident without causing a larger conflict. He spoke calmly but firmly, outlining the specific behavior he had witnessed and expressing how it made him feel. He emphasized respect, trust, and the importance of his mother's dignity. The fiancée tried to deflect using charm and excuses, but he could see through the act. Her defensiveness revealed more than her words could hide. The confrontation marked a turning point. The billionaire began to question the foundation of their relationship, seeing beyond appearances for the first time. The maid's actions had made it impossible to ignore the truth. Her courage and loyalty had created a space where honesty could no longer be avoided. The mother, too, felt a sense of relief, knowing that the situation was being acknowledged and addressed. In the days that followed, the household experienced a subtle shift. The fiancée became more guarded, aware that her behavior had been noticed and challenged. The billionaire remained thoughtful, processing the events and considering the implications. The mother continued her daily routine, supported by the maid, who had proven herself to be more than a servant. She was a protector and a guide. The incident had exposed the true character of those involved. It had revealed hidden strengths, tested loyalty, and challenged assumptions. The maid's unthinkable intervention had prevented further harm and set the stage for the next phase of the story. Her bravery had not only protected the mother, but had also opened the billionaire's eyes to the reality he had previously refused to see. The household, once seemingly harmonious, now faced a crucial moment of reflection. The relationships within it had shifted, trust had been tested, and the path forward was uncertain. The fiancé's charm could no longer hide her true nature, and the billionaire was forced to confront difficult truths about the person he thought he knew. The mother's patience, combined with the maid's courage, had created a moment of clarity that would influence the family's future. Part 3 ended with tension, realization, and the promise of more significant events to come. It had revealed the strength of loyalty and courage, the importance of standing up for what is right and the challenges of seeing people for who they truly are. The story moved closer to the inevitable confrontation and the unthinkable actions that would define the household's path forward. Ellie, setting the stage for conflicts and resolutions that no one could ignore. After the confrontation, the household seemed to enter a new phase. The fiancée had been warned, yet she continued to test boundaries. She smiled in public, laughed with friends, and acted as though nothing had happened. Inside the house, her subtle manipulations persisted, but she was careful, aware that her actions were being observed. The billionaire felt conflicted. He could no longer ignore the signs he had seen, and he began to question the foundations of his relationship. The incident had opened his eyes, revealing a side of his fiancée he had not wanted to see. The maid, meanwhile, had grown more vigilant. Her loyalty to the family and her sense of justice were stronger than ever. She knew that the fiancé's charm was dangerous because it masked true intentions. She also knew that sometimes decisive action was necessary to prevent further harm. Her unthinkable move had already protected the mother once, but she realized the situation could escalate beyond mere words or subtle manipulations. One afternoon, the fiancée attempted to undermine the mother during a discussion about the household's financial plans. She suggested a major change without consulting the family, claiming it was in everyone's best interest. The mother calmly expressed her disagreement, explaining why her original plan had been carefully considered and why change was unnecessary at that moment. The fiancé, however, persisted, insisting that her way was superior and dismissing the mother's reasoning. The billionaire entered the room just as the tension reached its peak. He could see the frustration on his mother's face and the determination in the maid's eyes. Something inside him snapped. He realized that he could not continue to ignore the truth. He had to act not out of anger, but out of protection for his family. He asked the fiancée to pause and listen, emphasizing that respect and communication were essential. The fiancée attempted to defend herself, but her excuses sounded hollow. The billionaire, for the first time, spoke with authority and conviction. "I will not allow anyone to disrespect my mother in her own home." "This stops now," he said firmly. The fiancée faltered, realizing that her influence was diminishing. The billionaire's words carried weight, supported by the mother's calm dignity and the maid's unwavering presence. It was then that the maid took another step, one that would surprise everyone. She revealed evidence of the fiancé's previous manipulations, messages, subtle deceptions, and instances where her words had contradicted her actions. The fiancé's shock was evident. She had underestimated the maid, believing that her social status and charm would keep her untouchable. The maid's courage in exposing the truth was unthinkable to many, yet necessary. The mother felt a mix of relief and admiration. She had always trusted the maid's instincts, and now her loyalty and bravery were undeniable. The billionaire's realization deepened. He understood that appearances could be deceiving and that true character was revealed in actions, not words. The maid's intervention had illuminated the path to clarity, forcing him to confront reality. The fiancé's reaction was a mixture of anger and disbelief. She attempted to deflect blame, using charm and manipulation to sway the situation, but the combined presence of the billionaire, the mother, and the maid left little room for her tactics. Each word she spoke was met with calm, firm responses, highlighting the truth and integrity of the family she had attempted to undermine. Over the next few days, the household adjusted to the new reality. The fiancée became increasingly isolated, her influence waning. The billionaire began to distance himself emotionally, observing her behavior with a clarity he had previously lacked. The mother, supported by the maid, regained a sense of peace and control within her home. The maid continued to act as the quiet guardian, ensuring that the household's harmony remained intact. The unthinkable actions of the maid created a shift in the family dynamic. Her courage and wisdom earned the respect and trust of everyone in the household. The billionaire recognized her value not just as an employee, but as a protector and advisor. Her loyalty and insight had prevented harm, and her actions had made it clear that she would always prioritize the family's well-being above all else. The fiancée, realizing that her charm could not override true integrity, became defensive and erratic. She attempted to manipulate situations to regain control, but her efforts only highlighted her dishonesty. The billionaire, now fully aware of her true nature, began making decisions that reflected his commitment to protect his mother and preserve the family's unity. The mother felt a renewed sense of strength. She had faced a challenge that could have shaken her emotionally and destabilized the household. Yet with the maid's support and the billionaire's growing awareness, she navigated the situation with dignity and calm. The experience reinforced her belief in patience, observation, and the importance of standing by one's values. The maid's unthinkable move had proven that loyalty and courage could overcome manipulation and deceit. She had acted decisively, guided by a moral compass and deep understanding of the family's needs. Her bravery created a sense of security and trust, allowing the household to move forward with clarity and purpose. The fiancée's position weakened further as her actions became more transparent. The billionaire realized that trust could not be maintained with someone who showed such disregard for his family. The mother's influence and the maid's vigilance created a united front that the fiancé could not penetrate. The household had shifted from tension and uncertainty to strength and clarity. In the following days, conversations and interactions within the house reflected the new balance of power. The fiancé's attempts to manipulate or control situations were met with calm, measured responses. The billionaire spoke with clarity and authority, making it clear that respect and integrity were non-negotiable. The mother maintained her dignity and composure, supported by the maid who remained ever watchful and wise. The unthinkable actions of the maid had transformed the household. She had challenged social norms and acted decisively when necessary, ensuring that the family's well-being remained intact. Her courage and loyalty had not only protected the mother, but had also awakened the billionaire to the true character of those around him. Part 4 highlighted the turning point in the story. The maid's bold intervention revealed hidden truths, strengthened family bonds, and challenged the influence of the fiancé. The household had moved from tension and manipulation to clarity, trust, and protection. The characters had been tested, and their true nature had emerged, setting the stage for the final resolution of the story. The stage was prepared for confrontation, justice, and the ultimate choices that would define the future of the family. The household had changed completely since the maid's decisive actions. The fiancée, once confident and commanding, now found herself on uncertain ground. Her charm had faded in the face of honesty, loyalty, and courage. The billionaire, who had been blind to certain truths for so long, now saw the person he had once trusted with complete clarity. The mother, serene but firm, had regained her sense of peace, her dignity preserved through the steadfast support of the maid. It was early in the morning when the final confrontation began. The fiancé had been avoiding discussions, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. The billionaire decided it was time to speak directly, not with anger but with purpose and clarity. He gathered the family in the living room, his eyes steady and serious. The mother sat quietly, composed, while the maid stood nearby, a silent pillar of strength and loyalty. "I cannot ignore what I have seen anymore," the billionaire began. "Respect is not optional in this family. We have tried to resolve things calmly, but your actions have shown that this relationship cannot continue as it is." The fiancé tried to respond, but the words faltered. She attempted her usual charm, a soft smile and a gentle tone, but it had no effect. The billionaire continued, unwavering. "You have crossed lines, undermined my mother, and disregarded the values that are important to this family. We cannot accept this behavior. Our home must be a place of trust, respect, and safety. I cannot allow anyone to compromise that." The fiancé's face showed a mixture of disbelief and frustration. She tried to deflect, claiming misunderstandings and misinterpretations, but her words lacked the weight and honesty needed to convince anyone. The mother's quiet presence spoke volumes, a calm yet powerful reminder of dignity and wisdom. The maid then stepped forward, speaking with a confidence and authority that left the fiancé startled. "Your words and actions have been observed for some time. Attempts to manipulate, criticize, and control have been recorded in small but telling ways. This family values loyalty and integrity above charm and appearances. We will not allow behavior that threatens the peace of this household." The fiancé faltered further, realizing that her strategies could no longer succeed. Her manipulations had been exposed, her charm neutralized by the truth, and her position weakened by the unwavering integrity of the mother and the maid. The billionaire looked at her, no longer blinded by affection, but with clear understanding and resolve. "I have made my decision," he said. "This engagement cannot continue. We will part ways, and I ask that you leave our home respectfully." The fiancé, unable to regain composure, quietly nodded and left. The household felt a sense of release, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. The tension that had lingered for weeks dissipated, leaving a calm and peaceful environment in its place. Afterward, the billionaire turned to his mother and the maid. "I realize now how much I have relied on your wisdom and patience," he said sincerely. "I see clearly the importance of character, loyalty, and courage. I am grateful to both of you for your support and for showing me the truth I could not see before." The mother smiled gently, her eyes reflecting relief and pride. "We all want what is best for this family. Patience and observation often reveal truths that appearances hide. I am glad that we can now move forward in understanding and unity." The maid remained modest, though her eyes showed quiet satisfaction. "It is my duty to protect this family, and I will always do so," she said. "Sometimes courage requires action that others may not expect, but it is necessary to ensure the well-being of those we care for." In the days following, the household adjusted to the new normal. The billionaire continued his work and social engagements, but he carried a newfound awareness and discernment in his relationships. The mother enjoyed her routines, her role within the family reaffirmed and respected. The maid continued her loyal service, but her role had evolved. She was no longer just a helper, but a trusted advisor and guardian. The story of the fiancé's departure spread quietly among friends and acquaintances, but within the home it was not gossip that mattered, only the restoration of trust, respect, and harmony. The family had faced a test of loyalty, character, and courage, and they had emerged stronger and more united. The billionaire reflected on the lessons learned. He realized that wealth and charm could not replace integrity and respect. True relationships were built on honesty, loyalty, and shared values. He understood the significance of listening to those who cared deeply for him and acting with clarity and courage when necessary. The mother felt a renewed sense of confidence and comfort in her home. She had endured subtle disrespect and manipulation, yet she had maintained her dignity and composure. The maid's loyalty and decisive action had been instrumental in protecting the family's well-being and preventing further harm. Together, they rebuilt the harmony of the household. Trust was strengthened, and the bonds between family members grew deeper. The maid's actions had demonstrated that true courage often came from quiet observation and decisive intervention. Her presence had reminded everyone that loyalty and integrity could overcome manipulation and deceit. As the days turned into weeks, the household thrived in a newfound sense of unity and peace. The billionaire continued to grow personally and professionally, guided by the lessons learned through this challenging experience. The mother enjoyed her family life with confidence, knowing that her dignity was respected. The maid remained a steadfast protector, valued not just for her service but for her unwavering courage and wisdom. The incident with the fiancé became a pivotal moment in their lives, a lesson in character, loyalty, and the importance of standing up for what is right. It highlighted the strength of family bonds, the value of honest relationships, and the unthinkable bravery that sometimes comes from those we least expect. In the end, the family emerged stronger, wiser, and more united. They had faced manipulation, disrespect, and tension, yet they had navigated the challenges with courage, patience, and integrity. The maid's actions had made the difference, showing that true loyalty and bravery could protect the family and illuminate the truth. The billionaire, his mother, and the maid moved forward together, their bonds unbroken and their home filled with trust, respect, and love.